Next, we will have Deputy Superintendent Angie Stallings. Are you ready for 12.1? Waivers for board rule. We've got two pieces here. So you're going to do the board rule first, correct?
Yes. Should I go forward?
Please continue.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, board members again. Angie Stallings, Deputy Superintendent of Policy. And first, we're going to talk about the waivers to board rule that we've got this month. As a reminder, you've made 2 motions in the 2 prior board meetings on March 19th and April 2nd. And so we as staff have prepared a draft proposed motion for your consideration. So Sarah, if you could just move to that, because it would help me just kind of describe the issues as they look at the proposed motion. But last month, you'll remember the lion's share, and actually it wasn't last month, it was April 2nd, so about 2 weeks ago. The lion's share of the rules that you waived were related to licensing and evaluation. And again, most of the rules you're looking at, or the waivers today, are kind of a supplement to both of the prior motions. There are things that either we missed or something that came to our attention that needed to be added. So the first item, we realized after the fact that the waiver that you included last month related to educator evaluations waived the educator evaluation requirements, but not the reporting requirements. So you can see number 1 would also waive the educator evaluation reporting requirements of our board rules, R277531 and R277533. Second, again, last month, we extended deadlines for educators to renew their licenses from June 30th to October 31st. However, we've found for our international guest teacher license holders, it will be a problem for them if their licenses are only extended for 3 or 4 months, as they may be applying for new visas or requests to remain in the country. And so in lieu of delaying their renewals by 3 or 4 months, we recommend that the board give the superintendent the authority to extend for up to 1 year international guest teacher licenses that expire on June 30th, 2020. This will allow them to get the renewals in, get the background checks done they needed, and it gives some flexibility for our staff to determine if only 4 months is needed, 6 months is needed, or a full year. And again, this is so that our international guest teachers aren't impacted in their ability to get their immigration status taken care of. Next, number 3, you'll remember in our March meeting, we waived the deadline for charter schools at that time to submit their school land trust plans from April 1 to June 1. And the deadline for districts is a little different than it is for charter schools, because district schools have a little bit of a different process and different deadlines. And so you'll see here that we're also requesting that for school district school plans, that the May 15th deadline in our 277477 be delayed to September 15th of 2020. And this is again to give them time to submit their plans to the board. And then last, we're recommending that we extend the deadline, not only the renewal deadlines for license holders, general education license holders, but also for those educators who might be working towards upgrading their license. And this allows them a little bit of extra time to get their license upgraded, not necessarily renewed. And so we needed that exact terminology to also be in there. And that's related to R277506 and 306. If you have any questions, I'm open for them at the chair's discretion.
Before I get a motion or ask for a motion, is there any questions or comments?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, then this is all part of our important housekeeping that we do to prop up education. So is there a motion?
Would you like me to make the motion?
Yes, if you would.
Okay.
So
I
after,
move.
before you make it, hopefully I won't have to repeat it. So,
Okay.
so I'll get a second, just in the interest of time and everyone has to listen to my voice. So it's a very long motion.
Okay. Board Member Lear has a hand up. Sorry,
Okay.
before I make the motion.
It took me a minute. I'm sorry. It took me a minute to put that hand up. But I just want to make sure in our discussion of reporting requirements, this is maybe an Angie question, perhaps a superintendent question. I want to make certain that our reporting requirements, reporting to us can be waived, but how does this influence information that we have to provide for the legislature? Are we going to have a similar amount of flexibility? Are we going to be caught in a very awkward situation with the legislature where we've waived reporting requirements, but the legislature still wants data? How's that?
Yeah, thank you. Board Member Lear, I can answer that. In statute, interestingly enough, on the educator evaluations program, it requires districts to have certain elements and disaggregate their data in certain ways at the district level, but it actually doesn't require that to be reported to the board. It's our board rule that has taken the step forward to say, look at those data elements that the statute has asked you to collect internally and disaggregate. And then we have in board rule asked them to report that to us. So we checked that and the reporting for educator evaluations, we don't believe there's any requirement for them to send that data to us in statute. Now, there are a number of other reporting requirements that I'll be talking about in just a moment, not related to educator evaluations, but the legislature is waiving a number of reporting requirements or is planning to later this afternoon and tomorrow as part of their special session.
Thank you. That's all I just wanted that assurance. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Cummins, a motion.
Okay, I move that in light of the national and state declarations of state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in addition to the waivers approved by the board on March 19th and April 2nd, 2020, the State Board of Education, one, for the 2019-20 school year grants to local education agencies, LEAs, a statewide waiver of the education evaluation reporting requirements of sections R277 531-3 and R277 533-9. 2, notwithstanding the provisions of R277 527 and R277 500, grants the superintendent the authority to extend for up to 1 year international guest teacher licenses that expire on June 30th, 2020. 3, for the 2020 school year extends the May 15th deadline in subsection R277-4773 parentheses 10 for school district school land trust plans to be approved by the district's local school board from May 15th to September 15th, 2020, and 4, extends the deadline and requirements for an educator expecting to upgrade the educator's license to a license type described in R277-506 or R277-306 from June 30th, 2020 to October 31st, 2020 to allow educators more time to obtain the new license.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Sean Newell? I'm trying to.
Yeah, Board Member Newell. Yes, Board Member Newell.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
There are no hands.
Okay, we'll vote on this. Member Belknap.
Aye.
Bolter. Member Bolter.
Aye.
Member Cannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cummins.
Aye.
Member Davis.
Aye.
Member Earl.
Aye.
Member Gravitt. Member Hanson.
Aye.
Member Haynes.
Aye.
Member Lear.
Aye.
Member Marsh.
Aye.
Member Newell.
Aye.
Member Thor?
Aye.
Member Huntsman's an aye. The voting was unanimous. Thank you.
All right.
Angie, please continue.
Thank you, Chair Huntsman. So the second item, if Sarah, if you could pull up, also have a proposed, staff has proposed a draft motion for you to make related to requests for statutory changes. And after the board considers this motion, I would like, at the chair's discretion, to just give you a brief update on the special session. I've uploaded two bills, or Lorraine uploaded two bills that are being considered by the legislature today and tomorrow, for you to just, for your awareness. And I just wanted to give you an update on the timing and things that we know about the special session. These two items here are not included and would not necessarily be addressed in the special session this week or next week, but maybe in a later April or early June special session. And you can see that there's two issues that have recently come to our attention. Number one, there's a Centennial Scholarship that students receive if they graduate early from our schools. And that money in code can only be used for full-time enrollment in a number of institutions, including our regular public colleges, universities, UTech, as well as some private universities. And so some institutions have recently allowed students to drop a class or two if at their discretion. And we've had higher ed institutions that reached out to our office to ask if that means that they then need to pull that funding or require the student to reimburse the Centennial Scholarship money. Our staff would recommend that the legislature waive that full-time requirement just for this, time during the COVID pandemic. That's the first item. The second item is related to a bill that passed this last session. You'll remember HB 58 added for the first time that the LEAs provide an underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program at least once for a student in a grade 4 or 5. That was to begin this fall. As our staff have been working with health staff members out in the LEAs, they're realizing that they would not have time this summer, spring and summer, to train their teachers on those new programs by this fall. So we're asking that the legislature delay the requirement for LEAs to provide that program and move the starting date from this year to the next school year. So from 2021 school year to the 21-22 school year. That's it for the action item.
Okay. Questions or comments on that's Deputy Superintendent Stallings just presented as a proposed action item?
Board members, appreciate your patience on this challenge that we've had with WebEx. It's a kind of a big problem. I understand the legislature's having the same kind of challenge. We're going to proceed with our board meeting. We will not have video. Board members are on a conference call line, and everything that is being said, our audio, is being streaming through YouTube. So those that are following on the YouTube, you won't see our smiling faces, but you definitely will hear our voices. So we're going to go back into our meeting, and again, appreciate your patience here. The item that we were on before we were lost was on our agenda was 12.2, and it's a request for statutory changes. And we're right at the conclusion of questions after Deputy Superintendent Stallings' report on the proposed actions that are before us. We don't have a motion yet, but was there any other questions? I think I fielded them all, but I just wanted to get back with you, board members. There isn't a way to raise your hands, so we will politely, if you can just state your name as you're trying to get on into the conversation, I'll try to recognize you that way. Again, appreciate your patience. Is there any other questions for Deputy Superintendent Stallings on this, on the two items? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So does somebody?
I'd like to make a motion.
Like to make a motion?
Yeah, that we,
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Will you state your
This is
name
Laura.
and then Okay.
Laura Belknap,
Okay.
that we make these requests for these statutory changes. And I don't know if you want me to read the whole thing. Do you want me to read
Hey,
it? Laura,
what if
and then
I?
with
Would you
this-
be okay if I state a motion and then let's see if that's what
Yeah,
you
so moved.
want
Yeah,
to do?
okay.
So I'm seeking a motion that due to national.
Never mind.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second, so I'm just going to state it publicly because what it would include. And the motion is that due to the national and state declaration of states of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the board directs staff to work with the legislature on potential amendments to the Utah Code to be addressed in a special session, including provisions related to the following. Number one, for the 2020 spring semester, only, approximately January 1 to May 15, 2020, waive the requirement in subsection 53F-2-501, parentheses 3, for a recipient of the Centennial Scholarship to be enrolled full-time, and number 2, delay the requirement in subsection 53G-10-406, parentheses 3, parentheses B, for LEAs to offer an underage drinking and substance abuse prevention program to each student in grade 4 or 5 from the 2020-21 school year to the 2021-22 school year. Laura, is that your motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Okay, and the second, we had a second discussion to the motion.
Second.
Okay, the second.
Chair, I have one comment, that we are
Yes.
on YouTube and we probably can't say certain words. Like COVID-19.
Actually, that got corrected, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah, I think-
corrected.
I think
Thank you.
that's it.
Okay.
So thank you for reminding me. I think I reminded the superintendent earlier, and I go, oh, okay, it must be good now. So thank you. Not seeing any of the discussion, let's vote. This will be a roll call vote. Board Member Belknap,
Aye.
Member Bolter,
Aye.
Member Cannon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cummins,
Aye.
Member Davis, Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Earl,
Aye.
Member Gravitt,
Aye.
Member Hanson,
Aye.
Member Haynes,
Aye.
Member Lear,
Aye.
Member Marsh,
Aye.
Member Newell,
Aye.
Member Thorpe.
Aye.
And Member Huntsman's an aye. Okay, the voting was unanimous. Motion passes. Angie, you were going to talk about a couple other
Yes.
bills
Chair
or
Huntsman,
something.
if you'd like me to, I
Okay,
was
I'm
just
going
going to briefly
I'm
give you
going
an
to put my
update.
Hey, I'm going to put my phone on mute because I've got to return a call of somebody that's on the line that might be or trying to get on. So, Vice Chair Cummins, will you kind of track the conversation?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Board members, this is Angie Stallings again, and I was just going to give you a brief update on the special session as far as timing and what we've learned, as well as bring to your attention two bills that we're tracking, and they are both uploaded to Civic Clerk. You can see SB 3005, it's Education Modifications Bill, and HJR 301, Joint Resolution Urging Fiscal Responsibility. So first, this is a unique special session. What they are planning to do is they're planning to keep their special session open for approximately 10 days. And so when they end today, they will simply be recessing, likely until tomorrow, because as you may have noticed, if you've been looking, the House started this morning, the Senate is now in session, and then the House will likely come back into session again tomorrow to take action on whatever the Senate did this afternoon. And then what I've heard is there may be additional times when they come back into session, and they will do that separately, not concurrently, due to all of the system and IT backing that they need. They can only do one House at a time. So just wanted to let you know that you may see them come back into session periodically on different days from now until for the next 10 days. One other thing I just wanted to mention, you may have noticed that only a special session was noticed, not a veto override session. So far, those would be noticed separately, and the legislature has until approximately May 10th to do a veto override. So as for the two bills that we are tracking, the first one, SB 3005, if you take a look at that bill, you'll notice it includes a lot of the recommendations that you made based on our first, actually both board meetings. It would waive the assessment requirements. It also waives the basic civics test graduation requirement for certain students, and waives the educator, not just educator, but employee evaluation requirements in code. And that includes classified as well as classified employees and educators. The most interesting portion of the bill states it gives essentially a waiver for us and the system for LEAs from complying with certain aspects of code related to the assessment waiver that's lower in the bill. And you'll see that we, the board, will be required to provide a report to the Education Interim Committee in October to make them aware of the programs, reporting, evaluation, and requirements that we are unable to comply with due to the assessment waiver and due to not administering assessments at spring. So those are the two bills, and that's just a brief overview of what to expect with the special session coming up. We've also heard that the legislature may call itself back into special session in late April, early May, and potentially sometime in June. So that is all I was going to share today.
Okay, questions from board members?
Chair Huntsman, it's Carol Lear.
Yes. Board member Lear.
I want to make sure I understood what Angie said about HB 332. She said that right now it's not noticed on the special session. Is that right, Angie?
No, not quite. Actually, what I said is the veto override session had not been called. Actually, the call of the special session does include a line item, or a portion of the call would allow them to consider a bill related to HB 332. I was just going to pull that call up. Just one moment. It's in the proclamation. It's quite a lengthy call. They have about 21 items or subjects. And if you look at number 17 on the legislature's call, it talks about that the legislature may consider creating a program to provide scholarships for students with disabilities to help cover certain costs to attend qualifying private schools, and creating related corporate and individual tax credits for certain donations to the scholarship program. So when I last looked at all of the bills that were public, and granted that was about 2 hours ago, I did not see a bill that would meet that subject, but it could happen today or tomorrow or any time during the next 10 days.
So, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So it could be, there could be a veto override with 332 on it, but not probably immediately, or there could be a variation on HB 332.
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay.
That is
Thanks.
accurate. So right now, what we can tell by the proclamation is it looks like they may decide to work on an updated bill in lieu of veto override.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for Angie? Okay, thank you for that update. Now, is this, as things move along, we'll definitely keep the board informed. We have taken a position in the past on HB 332, and so we'll see how that one plays out. Okay. I think that is it on 12.2. Is that correct, Angie?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.